Hello, this is Keith with Math, Fun, and Games. Because I had bad audio for the command phase, for the movement phase, and the combat phase, and the adjustment phase of turn 2 of the MBT basic game I was playing, I'm going to play the video now and do commentary as I watch it. Everything checks out, so we're good to go. So I'm going to play the video and talk about it. We're going from the combat phase, the fire phase, and then we're going to do the movement phase. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to roll for initiative. I'm going to go slowly. I like to have my videos would be within the range of 15 to 30 minutes. This video, when I first recorded, took 53 minutes. The reason it's taken so long is because I took my time on this video because I'm learning the game, and I also want to use this as a teaching video for other people who want to learn the game. A lot of times what I do, okay, something's happening here now. I'm just sending you the screen. But a lot of times what I do is I listen to videos while I'm doing something else. And I like to take that into consideration. So we're going to start off with the fire phase, but actually we got to do initiative first. Okay. So over here, I'm going over what we're going to do. We're going to do the combat phase, and we're going to do the movement phase. First, we're going to do initiative. The initiative is a D100 roll. In the advanced game, the initiative roll is affected by the quality of the unit. So over here, the Americans rolled 69 and the Warsaw Pact rolled 29. So that means the Americans won the initiative. So if you look over here, we did the command phase before. The vehicle I'm pointing at that had a fire marker on it, I gave it a fire command. The vehicle that was to the left of it had a short halt. What you do is you give commands even before you know the initiative. You give commands to each one of your units. You can either give them a move command, a no command, or a no command, a fire command, an overwatcher command, or a short halt command. A short halt allows you to fire and then move, but both the movement is reduced and the fire is less accurate. So I'm doing my first vehicle here, and I'm determining its range. So a range of 6. So now I'm going back to the vehicle card. We're using kinetic energy ammo, 8 armor piercing, firing something. And the 6 hexes in this game is point blank range. So now I'm going to the 2 hit table. There you go. There's the AP 2 hit table. At point blank range, it's a 90 to hit. So I'm going to go through the modifiers and see if any modifiers apply. So it's a T72 AV. I'm going to pull up that card. And I'm looking for the size modifier. The size modifier is right there. The offensive information is in the middle and the defensive information is below. And the size modifier is in the defensive information. It's -2 because the vehicle has a movement marker on it. the target vehicles, and so that will mean it takes a 72 to hit. And there are other modifiers. There's no cover. The firing unit isn't doing a short halt, it's doing a straight fire. The shooter isn't damaged. Now, a lot of these are only going to apply to the advanced game, or there'll be optional rules. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach the advanced game little by little. I'm going to keep adding a rule every time I play, a rule or two every time I play, rather than just going straight into the advanced game. That way it'll be more like a programmed introduction to the game. So I'm going to use 72 to hit, because there's only a -2. The only modifier was the target moving. And I'm closing the offboard setup window. Okay. So I'm going to roll that 72. See if I get 72 right. So the roll was a 38. So 38 is under 72. So I rolled under the hit value. So it hits. Now I need to determine, there's only two facings. There's a front face and a rear face. So there's only two armor ratings in the basic game. I'm going to look up the armor rating. Here's that vehicle. So here's the vehicle that fired under point blank range. The penetration factor was 110. And if you look at the lower left hand corner, you see the armor. The armor in the front facing was 85. So 110 minus 85 is 25. So here's the combat effects summary chart. So we're looking for basic game damage. If the penetration factor is equal to or greater than the armor factor by 1 through 3, the target is just damaged. But if the penetration factor minus the armor factor is 4 through 9, it suffers, is greater by 4 through 9, it suffers a KO. If it's greater by 10 or more, it's brewed up. In this case, the penetration factor was greater than the armor factor by 25, so it's brewed up. So it means the vehicle is on fire, and the key thing there is it creates smoke. This is the combat effects chart here. Okay, let's play. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to put a brew up counter on the vehicle that was attacked and exploded. All right, I found the location of the brew up, and I put a brew up counter on the vehicle that was hit. And then I'm going to flip the spotting marker for that over to fire to indicate that that vehicle fired. That'll make it easier to spot next turn. And that combat right there is completed. Now we're going to do the next vehicle. The next vehicle is going, well, let's just see how it goes. So the next vehicle is going to go through that brew up smoke. Now I'm going to determine the range. So what I'm explaining here is, if you have to say every single vehicle that's going to fire on a vehicle before you do a single shot at that vehicle. Once you fire at that vehicle with even one shot, No other vehicles except the vehicles that you announced that firing on that vehicle can fire. If your first, so let's take the case where you only had one vehicle firing against the other vehicle. If that vehicle hits, that's great. Let's say that vehicle misses. If that shot misses, you cannot go then say, I want another vehicle in addition to fire at the target vehicle. However, if let's say you have two vehicles to fire against a vehicle, the first one hits, first shot hits, the second vehicle is still committed to firing at that vehicle. They can't fire at another vehicle. So you have choices to make. And that's what I'm explaining here. Now this next vehicle again is firing from a short halt. So it's going to have some modifiers. And it's going to fire at that second vehicle over there. That's the vehicle that already fired. First thing we're going to have to do is determine the range. I'm going to go to the card. I believe, yeah, I'm checking the range right now. So the range is 7. We're going to go to the card for that particular vehicle. So 7 is greater than 6 and less than 12. So it's going to be at short range. That's a short range chart. So we're going to target. So now we're going to look on the second column. The base hit will be 70. Now we have to have the modifiers for the target. Target size is nothing. Target is moving, so it's -2. Target vehicle is not undercover, so we still have a -2 modifier. Oh wait, we're looking at the, okay. Now we have a short halt. The way the short halt, I'm going to pause this for a second. So let me explain a short halt. Firing from short halt incurs a penalty because it's a quicker shot and then you move. The penalty from firing at short halt depends upon the stabilization factor of the vehicle. In this particular case, stabilization factor for the M60 was 2, so that's a -2 modifier to the AP hit. So the AP hit goes from -2 to -4. The fire is also going to go through the brew up smoke of that first hex. So it's going to go from -4 to hit, it's the -4 modifier to -6. So -6 at short range on that AP hit chart, you need a 28 to hit. .42, and the brew up smoke would have made it an actual 28 to hit. So I'm going to roll the dice, and again 9. So 9 hits. Now you got to see so at short range the penetration factor is 96. The Soviet armor in the front is 85 over there. So that's +11. So that vehicle also is brewed up. So I'm going to put brewed up. marker on that vehicle right there. And there it goes. In MBT and Panzer, the fire isn't simultaneous. So those two vehicles that were brewed up aren't going to be able to fire back. And any shot that goes through that smoke in either direction is going to have an effect to make it hard to hit. Over here, I'm just changing the move counter to a fire counter. And for each hex of brewed up smoke you go, it's a -2 modifier. So if it goes through both those hexes, it's a -4 modifier. Now I have a bunch of units on a hill. I have one unit in a hex by itself, and the other hex I have 3 units. These are all M60 tanks. The targets are going to be at the same level as them. They're all on hilltops. Targets are going to be moving. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be checking the range here. In the target hexes, one of the hexes has 1 vehicle, the other hex has 4 vehicles. Remember, you can have up to 5 vehicles in a hex without having penalties. Each hex is about the size of a football field. I'm checking the range. The range is 21. Now I have to go to my vehicle card. There's the vehicle card. Now I'm going to go to the type of ammo we're using. In this case, it's kinetic, 105 kinetic energy. It's the only type of ammo available in the basic game. I'm going to go across. I'm going to go where it says APF SDS 105 millimeter KE. I'm going to go across on the R row, and 21 is greater than 12 but less than 22. So that shot is going to be a medium range shot. So that means its penetration factor is going to be 86. So if the penetration factor is 86 and the front arm is 85, 86 minus 85 is going to be 1, which means it's just going to damage the vehicle. So over here I'm going over the base at medium range. So it's going to start at 50. Then you're going to take into account the modifiers. And I believe the only modifier right here was moving. I hit the hide button, checking, seeing if there's any terrain. There's no cover. The unit's not at short halt, it's firing. So there's going to be no other modifiers. So that 50 becomes a 40. After roll 40 to hit, I roll and I get a 74. So that's a miss, and that vehicle is done firing. Now I'm going to go on to the other vehicles. In the next hex, I believe I have, let's see, okay. So I just took another shot with another vehicle that was on that hill, and it was a miss because I rolled a 53, and I needed a 40 to hit. I believe I have 2 more vehicles on that hill. I do believe that one of those vehicles does get a hit. What happens is I get hit on a vehicle, and there are other targets in that hex. So then I take the pile of 3 tanks, and I have 2 of those tanks fire at a single vehicle in the brewed up hex, and I have another tank fire at a vehicle that's in the hex next to it. Here I'm just, okay. So now I'm resolving the fire from the Russian tanks to the American tanks. I looked up the range, and it was actually long range, I believe. Now there's a +1 modifier, size modifier, to hit the American tanks. If you notice it, so I go, and it'll be a movement. The vehicles were moving, so it'll be -2. It'll be +1 for the size modifier. So it'll be long range -1. So I believe it needs 27 to hit. I roll, and I got 15, so that is a hit. So the armor level is a 48 on that vehicle, and at long range it does the penetration 73, so that vehicle will be brewed up. So I'm just removing the fire marker because it's not needed because that vehicle is toast. Now there are 2 other vehicles in that hex. One of the vehicle was blown up and is on fire. So it's creating a -2 hit modifier. Here I'm putting the brewed up marker on it. I also have a vehicle in the next hex over, and there's no brew up smoke. The Russian player has 3 vehicles. He has to decide which vehicles he's going to fire on. What he ends up doing, he has 1 vehicle fire against the hex that's in the clear, and he has the other 2 vehicles fire against one of the tanks that's in the brew up hex. Because the brew up hex is a little bit harder to hit because it has an extra -2 to hit modifier. So it shifts the row down by 2. At long range, we'll go to the target. Size modifier +1. Long range. So it was going to be +1, -2 for moving. This is firing at a target that's not on the brewed up hex. And then I rolled, and it was a miss. 87. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I did hit. Yeah, I got 19. So I did get a hit on that. Don't know why I rolled again. long range. Base to hit is 30. Plus 1 makes it a 33. You go down 2 because of target size. You go down 2 more. So now you're at -3 and you need a base 21 to hit. You roll, you get 55, and it's a miss. And that right there is the fire phase. The fire phase has been completed. Now you have to make sure you mark all the vehicles that fired with a spot fire marker, because that'll make them easier to spot next turn. And now you go on to the move phase. In the move phase, player 2 moves first. As player 2 is moving, if player 1 has any vehicles in Overwatch, they can fire at the moving targets. I didn't have any Overwatch firers in this turn. I'm just going over the vehicles that had movement commands over here. Those 3 vehicles right there, those had movement commands. The short haul can move, and this can move, and for the Russians, these 3 can move. And then you have the 2 more vehicles on the hill that can move. So the Russian vehicles will be moving first. Actually, no. Those vehicles right there, they all fired. They had fire command, so they can't move. So the only Russian vehicles that can move are these 2 vehicles that are on a hill. And here I'm just switching over their move markers to the fire markers, because they fired, so I have to want to make sure they have the fire markers on them. You should be doing that. Well, this is the short haul firer now. So this is still the fire phase. No. This is, pardon me. This is the remainder of the fire phase. So when the Russians are firing, they're facing a target size. Pause this for a second. I'm just looking up. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. Let me pause it. Pause. Come on, pause. There we go. Okay. So the first 2 Russians, the Russians right behind those 2 brewed up vehicles. The modifier for them is going to be -2 for each of those brewed up vehicles, so it's -4. And the American vehicles have a large target size, so it's going to be -4 +1. Yep, -4 +1, so it's -3. And then the target vehicles were moving, so it's going to be -4 +1. So it's -3, -2, so it's going to be a -5 modifier for each of these for each shot that these Russian vehicles take. -2 for each brewed up vehicle. -2 because the targets were moving. And +1 because the targets are large size. I'm going to hit play again. Here I determine the range. Range of 8 is short range. I go to the 2 hit. At short range, base is 70, but the modifier is -5. So it will be a 35 to hit. And here I'm just going over the various 2 hit modifiers. +1 for the target size, -2 because the target's moving, because it has a short haul command. -2 for each brew up smoke. So it's -5. Then I took my shots and they were both misses. And the vehicle that's behind, he's going to have an easier shot because he doesn't have to fire through the brew up smoke. The only modifier for him is going to be the target size, which is a positive modifier to hit, and then target moving. So he's going to have his range, which I believe is just short range, medium range, and then a -1 to that. He rolls, he gets a 72, and he misses. And that right there is and then I flip over the move marker to the fire marker, and he's done. That, my friends, is the end of the fire phase. Now we go on to the movement phase. The Russians only have, the Americans have 1, 2, 3, 4. The Americans have quite a few. That short haul vehicle can move, vehicle next to it can move. Those 2 Russian vehicles are the only Russian vehicles that can move. Those 3 vehicles right there, the platoon of 3 American vehicles can move because they had move commands. So during the movement phase, the only vehicles that can move are those who either had a move command or a short haul command. If you give a move command or a short haul command, you do not have to move out of that hex. I'm moving the Russian tank down the road. Let's pause it for a second, right? Pause it. I actually show you counter. And there, okay. Right there, if you look underneath the vehicle picture on the counter, it has a 7T 9-14. The T means it's a track vehicle. The 7 is a cross-country road rate. The 9 is the number of the movement factors for traveling down a path or a road path combination. And the 14 is the number of movement factors if you're just going down the road. In MBT, vehicles have, each vehicle has its own path movement rate and road movement rate. Unlike some other games where every vehicle has the same, the one movement rate, and then the modifiers are on based on the terrain, and it's the same for everybody. In MBT, you have a cross-country rate, you have a path rate, and you have a road movement rate. What this vehicle did, he moved 14 hexes, and just followed the road. You get 1 free hex side vehicle combat arc change. Also, in this game, vehicles have to be facing a hex side. They don't face hex spines ever. And at one point, he has to spend an extra movement point because he turned more than 1 hex side. Also, if you go down a hill, it's +2 for vehicles, +2 to the movement cost. If you go up a hillside, it's +2 of the movement cost. If you're on a road, that's only a +1 to the movement cost, plus whatever that terrain is. Plus, so it's going to be, to go down a hill, it's going to be it's going to be 2. To go up a hill, it's going to be 2. That's if you're on a road. Otherwise, it's whatever the terrain is of the hex you're entering, plus an extra 2. I actually didn't take that into account when I was going downhill. So you're going to see I'm going to have to move this vehicle right here back to the bridge. That victory point, that now belongs to the Russians because they crossed that bridge. Over here, I'm going to switch. I start on the road and I go to the path. There's two vehicles there. Because I went to the path, I'm going to get the path movement rate. The road movement rate was 14. The path movement rate is 9. And I'm going to move these, you're going to see me move these vehicles forward, but then I have to move them back too, because I forgot to pay the penalty because you're going downhill. So I had to adjust for the fact that I wasn't moving 14, I was moving 9, and there was an extra +1 because I went down 2 levels. Well, in this area where you see right now, I'm moving the American vehicles because the Russian vehicles have already moved. I actually failed to give one of my units over there a command, so it becomes a no command and he can't do anything. He's frozen in place. But one unit had a move command. All I did was move that unit into the woods. Cover is important, makes it hard to see. You can still see into the first hex of the woods, but does give cover. And the other vehicle that has short halt, I did not move him at all. I'm allowed to do that. I did switch his marker from his short halt marker from fire to move, show that he moved. And I'm going to flip that fire over to move to show that he did move. And one of those vehicles is not going to have a fire or a move marker on it because it didn't do anything. And here's the correction for the slope. And that right there, my friends, was the movement phase. And he's going to move back there. So now I actually have 3 more American units that I didn't move yet. So Russians move, Americans move. I'm in the move phase for the Americans now because the Russian moved. The reason I'm touching Russian tanks is I had to make the adjustment because I made a mistake when I initially moved them when they were going downhill. And the short halt gets flipped over to a move. That's important for bookkeeping purposes because you want to know which of your vehicles move. I got to move these. These 3 vehicles right here have move commands. I'm going to move them. Now, if I was smart, I could have put those 3 vehicles on Overwatch. If I'd put those vehicles on Overwatch, they would have been able to fire against these moving Russian units and probably had a pretty good shot at them. Unfortunately, I didn't put them on Overwatch. The downside of that would have been if those Russian vehicles did not move and my units were in Overwatch, they wouldn't have been able to fire. Because units in Overwatch can only fire at moving units. Now I noticed I had two more American vehicles in the back. The first sergeant's, the commander's vehicle, and I believe the first sergeant's vehicle. They were command tracks. Unfortunately, I did not move them. And over here, I'm just going through the adjustment phase. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here. So what I want to do is I created a video and the sound was off on it. I thought it was a very good teaching video, both for me and for other people. So I redid it. I played the video in VLC player while I did a brand new audio for it, which is what you're listening to right now. I believe I have worked out most of the audio issues I had, and I believe that my future videos will be a lot better. I thank you very much. I thank you for your patience, and I wish everybody out there the very best. I look forward to seeing you for my next video. I want you to have a